Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going way beyond the headlines.
Yeah.
Diving into a case that really shook Albuquerque
Mm-hmm.
back in 2021.
Yeah.
The Elias Otero case. It's one of those stories that just grabs you.
Yeah.
A young man losing his life trying to save his brother.
Right.
But what I find particularly fascinating is how it all unfolded.
Yeah.
The digital trail that led to tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a real mix of sources for you. Court documents that lay out the chilling details, news articles that capture the community's reaction,
Right.
and even some personal accounts that really personalize Elias and his family.
Absolutely. It's a case that really forces us to look at how the lines between our digital lives and real-world consequences are blurring.
Right.
And sometimes those consequences are devastating.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how many of us are truly aware of the dangers lurking online. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with Elias himself.
Okay.
He was a 24-year-old former corrections officer, well-respected and incredibly close to his family, especially his younger brother, Nicholas.
Yeah. That close bond between the brothers,
Right.
it ends up playing such a crucial role in how this whole tragedy unfolds.
It really does. And it all starts with what seems like a typical social media connection. We're talking about 18-year-old Annabella Dukes reaching out to Nicholas on Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
At first glance, it's just casual conversation.
Right.
The kind of online interaction we all have every day. But looking back, knowing what we know now,
It's a textbook example of how predators can manipulate our natural tendency to trust,
right?
especially in online spaces.
Yeah.
They create these elaborate facades, carefully crafting their profiles and interactions to appear harmless,
Right.
even friendly.
It's almost like they're playing a character,
Yeah.
building a relationship that feels real,
Mm-hmm.
but is ultimately designed to exploit.
Precisely. And what's particularly insidious is how they often use techniques borrowed from psychology, things like mirroring, where they subtly mimic your language and interests, or flattery, showering you with compliments and attention to make you feel special.
It's crazy how they can take these normal human interactions and twist them for their own sinister purposes.
Right. And they often prey on vulnerabilities, offering support or understanding during a difficult time.
Mhm.
It's all part of a calculated strategy to lower your guard and gain your trust.
So in this case, Annabella Dukes, posing as this friendly girl on Snapchat,
Right.
she's slowly weaving this web of deception around Nicholas.
Yeah.
And as the conversation progresses, things take a darker turn.
That's when the trap is sprung. She suggests a casual hangout, a meetup that seems completely innocent,
Right.
but it's all a carefully orchestrated setup.
And that's when 17-year-old Adrian Avila and others enter the picture, waiting in ambush when Nicholas arrives.
It's chilling to think how they use these seemingly innocuous social media tactics to lure him into a dangerous situation.
Think about the trust that Nicholas must have felt, the sense of security that was so quickly shattered. It really underscores how social media can create this illusion of safety
Right.
while simultaneously making us more vulnerable.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Right.
We're so connected, so
Yeah.
trusting in these online spaces, yet we rarely stop to consider the potential consequences.
And the consequences in this case were absolutely devastating.
Oh, yeah.
Once Nicholas was in their clutches, it became a terrifying ordeal. Held at gunpoint, forced to make a call.
A call that would ultimately seal his brother's fate. They demanded a ransom money and firearms, threatened to kill Nicholas if their demands weren't met.
Can you imagine the pressure? The fear that Nicholas must have felt, knowing that his brother's life was hanging in the balance.
It's a heartbreaking scenario, a desperate plea for help.
And on the other end of the line, you have Elias, hearing his brother's terrified voice,
Right.
knowing he has to act. He arms himself and heads straight into the heart of danger, driven by that unbreakable bond of brotherhood.
It's a testament to his character. A former corrections officer, likely trained to assess risk and avoid danger, yet he didn't hesitate for a moment.
It speaks to the power of family. The lengths we'll go to protect those we love. But sadly, in this case, Elias's act of courage would lead to a tragic confrontation.
This wasn't a simple case of robbery or even a kidnapping gone wrong. This was a meticulously planned extortion scheme.
Right.
A calculated act of violence waiting to happen.
And the confrontation, fueled by adrenaline and desperation, escalated quickly, didn't it?
Words were exchanged.
Yeah.
There was a struggle.
Right.
And then a shot rang out. Avila fired his gun, fatally wounding Elias. It was a devastating outcome, a senseless loss of life.
That's heartbreaking. And the impact of this event, it rippled through the entire Albuquerque community. People were shocked, angry, and fearful.
It shattered that sense of security, the belief that these things don't happen in our own backyards. The fact that it originated from a seemingly innocent online connection made it even more unsettling for many.
Absolutely. And as the community grappled with this tragedy, the investigation began to unfold, meticulously piecing together the events leading up to that fateful encounter.
And this is where the digital trail becomes crucial.
Right.
Law enforcement had to dive deep into the world of social media, tracing messages, analyzing profiles, and using digital forensics to uncover the truth.
It's like a whole new breed of detective work, isn't it?
It is!
Yeah.
Digital forensics is a fascinating field. They're essentially reconstructing a crime scene in the digital realm, extracting data from phones, computers, and social media platforms to create a timeline of events.
And it's not just about collecting data.
Right.
It's about understanding how to interpret it,
Yeah.
how to connect the dots and build a case.
Exactly. And in this case, those digital breadcrumbs would eventually lead to justice. Months after the tragedy, in December 2021, Adrian Avila, still a minor at the time, turned himself in to authorities.
And then in January 2022, Annabella Dukes was apprehended as well. It was a small measure of solace for a community still reeling from the loss of Elias.
Right. Their arrests brought a sense of closure, a reminder that actions have consequences, even in the digital world.
But the question remains,
Yeah,
could this tragedy have been prevented?
that's the question that haunts us all, isn't it? And it's a question that leads us to examine the broader implications of this case, the lessons we can learn, and the steps we can take to create a safer digital world.
And that's where I think this deep dive gets really interesting, because while the details of this case are unique, the underlying themes of online manipulation, exploitation,
Yeah.
and the blurred lines between the digital and real world are something we all need to be aware of.
Absolutely. And as we delve deeper into these themes, we'll uncover insights that can help us better understand the tactics used by online predators, the psychology of manipulation, and the steps we can take to protect ourselves and our loved ones. As we've seen in Elias's case, what starts as a seemingly harmless online interaction can quickly spiral into a dangerous situation.
Right.
So let's shift gears now and explore what we can learn from this tragedy, and more importantly, how we can protect ourselves.
Yeah, I think a lot of people listening right now might be feeling a bit uneasy realizing just how vulnerable we can be online.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk practical steps. What are some red flags we should be watching out for?
Well, one thing to be wary of is how quickly someone tries to build trust and familiarity online.
Okay.
It's natural to want to connect, but predators will often use excessive flattery, share very personal information too quickly, or try to create a sense of intimacy very rapidly.
So it's almost like they're trying to accelerate the relationship,
Yeah.
bypass those natural stages of getting to know someone.
Exactly. They
Right.
want to get you to let your guard down as quickly as possible. Another major red flag is if someone is constantly pushing for a face-to-face meeting,
Oh.
especially if you've expressed hesitation.
And I imagine it's even more suspicious if they're being vague about the details of the meeting or try to pressure you into making a quick decision.
Absolutely. Those are all signs that something might be off. And beyond these specific tactics,
Yeah.
it's crucial to trust your gut instinct.
Okay.
If something feels wrong about an interaction, it probably is.
Right.
Don't hesitate to block or report suspicious accounts.
That makes so much sense. It's like we have this internal alarm system,
Yeah.
and we should never ignore it, especially online.
Right. And remember, being cautious doesn't mean being paranoid.
Right.
It's simply about being aware, being mindful of the potential risks, and taking steps to minimize them.
Okay, so we've talked about recognizing red flags. But what about more proactive measures? Are there things we can do to protect ourselves from the get-go?
Of course. A simple but often overlooked step is to review your privacy settings on all your social media accounts. Control who can see your posts, your location, and other personal information.
It's amazing how much we reveal about ourselves online without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Pictures, check-ins, status updates, they all paint a picture of our lives that can be easily exploited.
That's a great point. It's about being mindful of your digital footprint. Think carefully about what you share online and who has access to it.
And if you're a parent listening to this,
Mm-hmm.
it's crucial to have open and honest conversations with your kids about online safety.
Absolutely.
Teach them about the potential dangers, how to recognize red flags, and how to report suspicious activity.
You're absolutely right. It's never too early to start those conversations. Kids are getting access to smartphones and social media at younger ages,
Right.
and they need to be equipped to navigate the online world safely.
It's about empowering them, not just scaring them.
Exactly. And it's also important to emphasize that if something does happen, if someone does make you feel uncomfortable or threatened online,
Right.
you need to report it.
It can be scary to come forward, but reporting these incidents is crucial.
Mhm.
It helps create a safer online environment for everyone.
Right. Reporting helps social media platforms identify and remove bad actors, and it can also help law enforcement track down criminals.
And I think it's important to remind listeners that they're not alone. There are resources available to help victims of online harassment,
Hmm.
cyberbullying, and other forms of digital abuse.
That's such a vital point. There are organizations dedicated to supporting victims and advocating for their rights.
So it's about being informed, being proactive, and knowing where to turn for help if needed. But it also begs the question,
Yeah.
where do social media platforms themselves fit into all of this?
That's a crucial question. As we see more cases like Elias Otero's, it's clear that social media companies have a responsibility to prevent online exploitation and abuse.
I mean, they have access to massive amounts of data and sophisticated algorithms. Could they be doing more to detect and flag potentially harmful activity?
There's certainly a growing expectation for them to take a more proactive approach. We need to demand that these platforms prioritize user safety and take concrete steps to mitigate the risks.
It's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
right? Fostering a vibrant online community while also protecting users from harm.
Exactly. And ultimately, it's not just about holding social media companies accountable. It's also about fostering a culture of responsibility among users.
Okay.
We all have a role to play in creating a safer and more respectful online environment.
It's a shared responsibility. So, as we reflect on Elias's story and the broader conversation about online safety, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think one of the most poignant takeaways is the importance of cherishing our loved ones and expressing our appreciation for them. We never know when life might take an unexpected turn.
That's beautifully put. And it reminds us that amidst all the darkness and tragedy, there's also this powerful reminder of the enduring strength of love and family bonds.
Exactly. Elias's story is a testament to the profound lengths we'll go to for those we care about. But it also serves as a stark reminder of the very real dangers that exist online.
Yeah.
It's a call to action to be more mindful, more vigilant, and more proactive in protecting ourselves and those we love.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's important to acknowledge the weight of this conversation.
Yeah.
It can be unsettling to confront the darker side of the digital world, but it's crucial that we do so.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the convenience and connectivity of social media, but we can't afford to be naive about the potential risks.
So as we move into the final part of this episode, we'll explore some broader societal implications of this case and delve into potential solutions for creating a safer digital future. We'll talk about the evolving nature of crime in the digital age, the challenges law enforcement faces, and the role of technology in both perpetuating and mitigating these risks. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
Yeah.
from the heartbreaking specifics of Elias's case to the broader issue of online safety. But I think there's another layer we need to explore.
You're right. Zooming out, Elias's story reveals a bigger picture, a shift in the very nature of crime in this digital age. It's not just about isolated incidents anymore. It's about a whole new landscape where criminals exploit technology to target victims, often across vast distances.
It's almost like the digital world has become a breeding ground for a new type of criminal,
Right.
one who understands how to manipulate algorithms, erase their tracks, and operate beyond the reach of traditional law enforcement.
Exactly. Think about it. Crimes that used to require physical presence, extortion, kidnapping, even threats of violence can now be carried out remotely, making them much harder to track and prevent.
And that disconnect, the gap between traditional investigative techniques and the rapidly evolving world of digital crime, that's got to be a huge challenge for law enforcement.
It is. Think about the tools and training that detectives relied on for decades. Fingerprint analysis, eyewitness accounts, physical evidence.
Right.
Those are still important, but in many cases, they're simply not enough.
So, what needs to change? How can we equip law enforcement to effectively combat these tech-savvy criminals?
Well, for starters, we need to invest heavily in specialized training, digital forensics, cybercrime investigation techniques, understanding how social media algorithms work, how data is stored and transmitted, the whole 9 yards.
It's like we need a whole new breed of detective.
Yeah.
Almost like a digital Sherlock Holmes, someone who can decipher the clues hidden within the ones and zeros.
Exactly. And Beyond training, we need better collaboration between law enforcement agencies, tech companies, and cybersecurity experts.
Because right now, it feels like everyone's operating in silos, with information not being shared effectively.
You're spot on. We need to break down those barriers, create a more seamless flow of information. Imagine a scenario where a local police department investigating an online extortion case can easily tap into the expertise of a federal agency or a tech company that specializes in tracking cybercrime.
That would be a game changer. Pooling resources, sharing knowledge, working together to stay ahead of these evolving threats.
Absolutely. And it's not just about catching criminals after the fact.
Right.
It's about prevention, about empowering individuals with the knowledge and tools to protect themselves online.
So it's about education, awareness, really changing our mindset about how we approach security in this digital age.
Exactly. Think about it like this. We wouldn't leave our front door unlocked or share our bank details with a stranger on the street. We need to apply that same level of caution and awareness to our digital lives.
So what are some practical things listeners can do right now to bolster their online security?
Well, beyond what we've already discussed, recognizing red flags, being mindful of privacy settings, I'd say one of the most important things is to stay informed.
Informed about the latest scams, the tactics being used, the evolving nature of these threats.
Exactly. There are some fantastic resources out there. Websites, podcasts, even social media accounts dedicated to educating people about online safety. Make it a habit to stay up to date on the latest trends and threats.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
It really is, especially in the digital realm. And don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need it. There are organizations dedicated to supporting victims of online harassment, cyberbullying, and other forms of digital abuse.
And those conversations about online safety, they need to be happening everywhere in our homes, schools, communities, even in our government.
Absolutely. We need to create a culture where online safety is a shared priority, a collective responsibility. And that includes holding social media companies accountable. They have a huge role to play in creating safer platforms, and we need to keep pushing for greater transparency, stronger content moderation policies, and a more proactive approach to addressing these issues.
Because in the end, it's about recognizing the human cost of these crimes. Behind every online interaction, there's a real person with real feelings, real vulnerabilities.
And as Elias's story so powerfully reminds us, the consequences can be devastating.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the Elias Otero case and the broader implications for our digital lives, I hope listeners are leaving with a heightened sense of awareness, a toolbox of practical strategies, and a renewed commitment to creating a safer online world for everyone.
It's been a heavy conversation, but an important one.
It really has. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.